Welcome to the Private Practice Journeys podcast, where mental health professionals learn about the nuts and bolts of private practice by listening to the journeys of 4 therapists that have taken the plunge into private practice. And here's your host, Chris Quarto.
Hey everybody, this is Chris Quarto. Welcome back to Private Practice Journeys, 1 year later. And I am joined today by Debby Simmons. And Debby, welcome back.
Thanks, Chris. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. And now it's a real interesting thing, Debby, because a lot of people have never heard any of these Private Practice Journeys episodes. You participated on a lot of them last year. And for those who have never listened to it, this was a podcast series where I had interviewed 4 therapists once a month for a period of about a year, and I wanted to find out what it was like for them to take the plunge into private practice. Now, as I had said on previous episodes, Debby was the unique one in the bunch because she had been in private practice already, and her plunge was to switch from solo private practice to group private practice. And so this was a real interesting transition for you, I know, Debby. And I think maybe a good starting point, which I've done with Amanda and Lisa, was just to kind of share with the listeners your story. Maybe you could share a little bit about how you got into private practice to begin with, and then maybe share with us why did you decide you wanted to go the group practice route? So let's start there.
Okay, sure. So I've been in private practice for a long, long time. I've been an educator and a therapist for my entire career. They've always gone hand in hand.
Okay.
And I've been lucky enough to always kind of go the private practice route. In about 3 years ago, I actually went to a seminar for therapists, mostly just on, how to advance your practice, how to make more money, all those kinds of business things. And there was a speaker that got up and started talking about the fact that he had a group practice, and I was very intrigued by the idea. And I went and talked to him afterwards and wanted to find out about his practice. And then I thought, I had an intern working for me, and I had another therapist who had just was newly licensed. So I had 2 people who were already working with me, and I thought, well, we kind of have a group practice.
Uh-huh.
And then I talked to them about, what it would be like to really solidify some of this, and they liked the idea, and I ran it by my husband.
Okay.
And I thought, well, if we were going to do a group practice, what would our focus be? What would set us apart and make us different? And a lot of what we all believed in was a holistic way of treating people. And basically what that means is, really looking at the type of therapy that we do, not just a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
But a lot of people come in and say, therapy doesn't work for me, and what are the reasons why? So I thought, in terms of dealing with the holistic perspective, not only would we have therapists, but we'd have adjunctive things to therapy. As the therapists, we often send our clients out to do, things like mindfulness and meditation and massage. And so we're sending them all out. So I said, well, what if we had this all in one place where it really became a wellness center? And that idea is what sort of blossomed. And here we are at the end of 2 years, going into our 3rd year of of doing that. And that's who we are, Premise Healing and Wellness.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've kind of referred to this as a one-stop shop because you guys do the therapy, plus you have massage therapists. I think you were doing Reiki. Are you still doing that?
Right, exactly.
Oh, okay.
We're still doing that. We have mindfulness, meditation.
Okay.
We run some groups. We do some nutrition counseling because I have a background in eating disorders as well. We run groups for people. A variety of different things. Art therapy is another one.
It's great because people, you're right, because a lot of people will say, I've tried therapy, I've tried different therapists, there's some good things about it, but it just doesn't seem to either ring true for me or doesn't seem to get me the results I want. But other options seem to work a lot better. So it's nice to see those alternative therapies under one umbrella. Well, let me ask you, let's
right.
go back just to even before you did this, the group practice, because you had been in private practice since, I think, was it 1993? Is that what she told me in the
Correct.
before?
Yeah.
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 So you
Yeah.
had done
Yeah.
this for over 20 years, and then
Hmm.
you decided, let's make this shift. Did you enjoy being a solo practitioner? Let's start there.
I did very much. Yeah. I loved working with clients. I loved everything I did. So there was nothing that I wasn't liking about it.
Back then, how did you know that you even wanted to do private practice, Debbie?
I guess I'm one of those lucky ones. I've known from the time that I was in high school what I wanted to
Is
do.
that right?
Yeah, I was interested in psychology, and my ideal job was to be able to be in private practice one day, and and to teach. And I did both of those. So I've always known it's a calling. I really believe it was.
You had mentioned when we first started today that not only have you been a therapist, but that you've been an educator as well. Say a little
Yes.
bit more about that, about what experience you've had along those lines, and how you think that educator role has figured into your therapy practice.
Well, I've taught all different levels. Primarily, when I graduated from college, I was actually teaching high school, and I was teaching psychology and health and religion, and I was a counselor at the school and a director of student activities. I did everything, and then I worked for a couple different high schools, and then I started doing university level teaching,
Okay.
and I still do. I still do teaching. I do a lot of online teaching. I chair dissertation committees, and so my whole background is my career is education, and I think that education and my therapy job go hand in hand, because I think so much of what we do as therapists is we have to educate people, and there's a lot that that I think that we learn as therapists that we sometimes forget when we're doing therapy with people. But I think if we stay on top of all of the latest things, and we have to bring that to our clients. And so for me, teaching is part of the work that I do with clients.
I totally agree with that. I think there are so many things that clients need to learn, not only about themselves, but about other people, about, there's so many things. I mean, when you think about it, and incorporating that into our work I think is essential. And, the last time that we talked, a year ago, actually, is when it was, we talked about how your therapist had been evolving, but a year has passed, and I'm wondering what's happened since then. So tell us a little bit about what have been some of the new things that you've been doing, any new marketing approaches, anything that you've tried over the past year.
Well, we've had a lot. I mean, a lot's happened over the past year. We've clearly had our ups and downs. I think where I'm in a place right now where I still see us as growing, and I think that's going to happen. I think our business model has had to change a little bit. We've gone from having I've had independent contractors to now everybody's going to be W-2 employees, and that's been a huge learning curve for me. It's great. I love running a business. I've learned that, but there's a lot to learn. I had a therapist leave who actually took a bunch of our clients, which was a really hard thing. So I had to deal with that. But then in the meantime, as that happened, I found another therapist who just is wonderful and fits in. I mean, the person I hired, I knew had to fit in with this group right away.
Right.
And I found somebody who did, and that's been awesome, and she's building her practice. In terms of marketing, we are starting a huge marketing campaign. Actually, I think it starts tomorrow. It's a lot of Facebook marketing. Our website is going to be updated, and so we're hoping that in January we're spending a lot of effort in terms of the marketing piece, and hopefully that will pay off. So there's been a lot of ups and downs. I was invited to to speak at the Harvard Faculty Club back in April about Primrose and about the holistic approach to therapy. So,
Is that right?
Came from, they found us online. Basically, it was through our website, and because there was not a whole lot being done in terms of this holistic approach to therapy. So that was kind of cool. I was pretty honored about that.
I bet you were.
Yeah, that was good.
That's great. So people are taking notice of what you're doing. I mean, I think when we had talked, I was really impressed with what you were doing, because here in Tennessee we don't really have that holistic approach. I think there are a couple places who do something similar, but I don't think as extensive as to what you're doing at your practice. So it is very impressive what you're doing, and I'm sure it's exciting for you.
Thank you. It is. It's fun. I mean, it's given me. I've always loved being a therapist, but I felt like when I was in my solo practice, it was getting. I needed something more, and I wasn't sure kind of what that was. But this has been it, and it's been. My energy level for doing this has been great. I've learned so much about running a business in a very different way, and I really like it a lot. Right.
Yes. Well, you had mentioned one of there are a lot of learning experiences that occur in running a group practice. And one of the things I heard you say is that you decided to go from this independent contractor model to a W-2 employee model. And share a little bit about what made you decide to make that switch.
California law.
Oh.
In California, anyway, and I think I know in other states, but I don't know which states, that we can't have independent contractors any longer, and they need to be W-2 employees.
Okay.
So when I discovered that was a big fear, because I just didn't know what I was going to do and if I could afford it or what that was going to mean. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's been a lot of expense going into, contacting attorneys, getting employment contracts rewritten, bringing this to all my independent contractors that they don't have a choice in this. Mm-hmm. Things like getting workers' comp now, hiring somebody to do payroll.
Right.
All of these different pieces that have taken a long time. Everything's just sort of coming together now, because all this will go into effect on January 1st.
Yeah, things that you never thought that you would have to deal with, right?
No. I thought I did it the easy way, and it was pretty easy.
Well, I think a lot of people who go into group practice do it that way at first. I mean, it is the easier way to go the independent contractor route. I did that a little bit. And it is. It's not a very difficult thing to do, but to make this kind of a shift, it's a pretty big commitment, and more responsibility and more time, and a lot more time investment, monetary investment. So I think to do that had to be a little scary for you.
Yeah, it's financially it's very scary, because I'm still I'm kind of dealing with that. But I think in the long run, it's going to be. I think it makes it a more solid practice, and it gives me a little bit more control. I've got some really good therapists, so it's not like I need to be controlling what they're doing.
Right.
But it does give me more control, and I am on top of things more in terms of what's happening within the practice. So I think it's going to be a better model moving forward.
I think another thing that people have a fear of when they think about doing the group practice model is what you had mentioned about, well, what if I have a person come on with me and then they decide maybe I want to open up my own practice and they're going to take all the clients with them. And, how do you deal with that? I mean, is there a way of dealing with that, or reducing your risk, or what have you learned about that?
Well, when we had the contract as they were independent contractors, it was really hard. I mean, it was in their contract that they couldn't take clients, but there really is. At least in California, there's nothing that says that actually stops you from competing with another person. In fact, it's almost the opposite. There's a no non-compete clause that you can really have. So there wasn't. I mean, if I could have pursued it, but then it would open me up too much, I think, I didn't want a lawsuit and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as the contract now that we have as people are W-2 employees, it's pretty clear and solid in their contract that they cannot take clients with them when they leave.
Right.
So we're under it's better now. Like I said, we've got more with this setup. There's just more control.
Sure. Yep.
So hopefully it'll be better.
Well, I know that I've been following you on Facebook and kind of keeping track of your progress, and it looks like you have also come out with some products as well as part of your practice. Is that right?
We do. It's Primrose, because as therapists, we're not like selling products. That's not part of what a therapist does.
Mm-hmm.
But Primrose as a holistic wellness center, because we've got the massage and the Reiki and mindfulness, we basically have some holistic products that we do sell. And for example, we have mineral oils and lotions and stuff like that and some hydrating drinks that, the massage therapists and stuff will recommend. We do a lot of work with body image, with people with eating disorders. And so a lot of that body image work is around, helping people feel good about who they look like on the outside. So instead of sending somebody to the local Sephora or Ulta, we'll play with some stuff right in the office. But if I use something, I'm going to be using something that's holistic and non-toxic and all that. So those are the products that we sort of promote. It's not a lot, but it's a few things, just so that people know that there is a place in our area where they can buy some non-toxic kinds of wellness products.
Well, where are you getting all of your referrals, Debbie? Because you do so many different things in your practice. Who are your referral sources?
So we're no longer. They've been from insurance, but we're no longer taking insurance. I've kind of moved out of that. So a lot of it has clearly been word of mouth. But now we are getting, it's through online sources. Like, we advertise in a variety of different ways through, Psychology Today is definitely one resource.
Right.
We're going to be running a marketing campaign through Facebook ads, and hoping that that's going to be a big source. Our website, our Facebook page, all of this, the social media stuff seems to be, at least at this point, a big way to go. Yeah, and I know that a lot of people don't use it.
Yeah, I know when we last talked last year, you had considered, dabbling in that a little bit just to find out how it worked for you. It's kind of neat to see you just going for it now, and I'll be eager to hear how that works out for you. I've considered doing the same thing with Google Ads just to see, hey, will this work, or because it's interesting, because I think that the way that we had marketed in the past, you and I have been in this profession for many years doing the Yellow Pages ads and all that kind of stuff. That's really changed significantly in the last several years. So you really do have to do things differently now.
Yeah, it really does. And, the other thing that we've got going too is like I'm doing, I've got an email, what do they call it? An automated email provider, not provider, but so I can do email letters now. I get a mailing list for people so that I can put stuff out for lots of emails. So it's kind of like newsletter types of things. I should put you on that list, actually.
Oh yeah, please do. And can you sign up for that on your website, or?
Not on the website. No, because we're going to be doing something else on the website. If you give it a few days, you can go on the website and see how we've redone the website. But we're not going to do, people can get on it through Facebook, but not through the website. We're going to do something else on the website, so you'll have to check it out.
Okay. We'll have to wait with bated breath and see.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
But a lot of it, it'll be clients who sign up, and just anybody who wants to be on it can contact me directly, and I would be happy to put them on the email list. I would love to do that.
Well, please place me on that. I want to keep track of what you're doing. So
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because you said earlier in the interview today that you've had one of the things that you did when you were still in solo private practice is you had interns work with you. And I'm interested just to kind of get your take. I asked Lisa and Amanda about this, but I wonder what you think about this, about people who are in their master's degree programs, they complete their internship, they complete their degree plans, and they go directly into private practice. And I wonder what your take is on that. Would you recommend that, or what do you see as some of the pros and cons of going into private practice directly out of graduate school?
I see different pros and cons. I think that when a lot of students will have they will have done a practicum in an agency, and so they'll have some agency experience, which I think is good, because I think what agencies do is they give you a lot of direct experience with a variety of clients, and and paperwork. You really have to do a lot of paperwork when you're in the agencies, and so you get the training. But if you going into private practice, I say if you know in your heart of hearts that you want to do private practice work, then I think it's definitely worth going into a private practice internship, because you're not going to learn the business end of things that you would need in a private practice from agency work. You need to get that with somebody who is in private practice who can teach you that. And I think one of the things that you would say to your supervisor is that you want that training.
Sure.
And then the interns, like my interns here, all the interns that I've had, if they've wanted to continue after their license, they can take those clients because they're my clients, but I would let them take those clients.
Okay.
So they can begin building their private practice while they're in their internship, if that's okay with their supervisor. But I do think having a balance between at least having some work in an agency and some work in private practice, so you can clearly see the difference, I think is really important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I think doing the agency work just kind of gives you the lay of the land, kind of helps you understand what the resources are in the community, and just how community agencies kind of work together, what purposes they serve, and then doing the private practice. I agree with that, and I think that what you said about people learning about the business aspect in private practice, I think that makes a lot of sense, because they don't get that in agencies, but they don't get that in graduate school either. I mean, I think that that's a real deficit in graduate school training, that they don't get any kind of experience or exposure to that, even as just like an optional class. It would be nice if they could take something like that to help them learn the business aspect. But
exactly.
But there are very few places that offer those types of classes. So
right.
Well, now that you have another year of private practice under your belt, what are some things that you might recommend to therapists? Because we have a lot of therapists who listen to this podcast series or have in the past who do work in agencies, and they are considering making that jump from agency work to private practice. So what would you recommend? What are some things you might recommend to them who are thinking about taking that plunge?
I think if they're thinking about taking the plunge, I think they could try it. I think they could probably try it slowly. They don't need to give up their agency work, particularly if they're being paid.
All right.
Not to give up their agency job. If they're not being paid, then they're going to be making more money by going into private practice, because when you go into private practice, you're going to be doing a split with the supervisor, so you will be making some money. But again, it's not going to be enough to live on. But the hard part, I think, in terms of what you want to make sure that you ask the supervisor is, are you sort of responsible for getting your own clients, or is the supervisor going to be providing that? If you're responsible for getting your own clients as an intern, that could be really hard, because what kind of marketing are you going to be doing?
Right.
Where are you going to market to? And you don't have any of that background. So if the supervisor, in an ideal setting, to find a supervisor who has enough client overflow would be ideal. But not to give up on the fact if you have to find your own clients, because you can still. I know when I got started as an intern, I was connected a lot with the schools, but I was doing workshops in the schools in the evening for like parents.
Uh-huh.
You could reach out to churches.
Sure.
You could reach out to different groups and do workshops and get clients that way. So
Mm-hmm.
it can be done.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's my bias is to do the agency route first, so you get to know people in the community, and people know you,
Right.
and that you do
Right.
good work,
Yeah.
and that they start referring to you when there's not risk involved, and to slowly build up your clientele, maybe in a part-time private practice or something like that. I think it's a safer route. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful just going ahead and taking a plunge into private practice. I think it is harder
Right.
doing that way, but there are certainly different ways, and I guess a lot of it just kind of boils down to your tolerance for risk, really.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's critical is networking. I mean, I've found I've had to do more networking now than I ever did before. But there are so many different types of networking groups and referral groups that are out in the community, not just therapist groups, but groups that are connected to a local chamber of commerce. There's so many different business referral groups, and getting in to be part of those groups where people within the group get to know each other and refer to your profession is also really, I have found, has become invaluable.
Let me ask you one question about that, because I agree. I think networking is great, and I try to do that as much as I can too. There are people who absolutely abhor networking. I mean, because it's the social thing, and I have to go talk to people I don't know and all that kind of stuff. What kind of advice could you give to therapists who just don't like doing that kind of stuff? Is there an easy way of networking? I mean, what might you recommend along those lines?
Well, the thing that I found, like I have a therapist who works for me who was kind of like that. And the one group that we recently have joined is it's a women's networking group that has lunch once a month. And she's like, I think I can do that because I don't have to get up and I don't have to really talk about myself. And it's lunch, and it's all, women who are sort of like-minded. And so it's finding something that feels like you can do it. It's not like going to a chamber event where everybody's sort of standing up, drinking wine, and happy hour and that kind of thing. Those are hard.
Yes.
Those are really hard because you have to go up and introduce yourself, and you have to be sort of an extrovert to do that. But if you go to something that's sort of like a structured networking luncheon or dinner, they typically have a program at that. It might be a 2-hour event, and they go around and they talk about what's going on. They have everybody introduce themselves, like at lunch, maybe talk a little bit about what's going on, but it's very structured, kind of like you're in a classroom.
Right.
So that's, I think, a little bit easier. But I think if anybody who's going into this business to build a business, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and to get to know your people, the people in your community.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to be successful.
I agree. And one of the things that I've found that's helpful is just to go out to coffee with a therapist. I mean, just contact them, say, hey, can I buy you some coffee, and just pick your brain and share some things that we do with one another. And I found that to be a very low threat type of marketing or networking activity. So. Well, Debbie, it's been great talking to you again. What if people want to contact you? Well, first of all, let them know what your website is, and then if they want to contact you, how would they do that?
So the website is primrosehealingandwellness.com.
All right.
And they can also find that on Facebook. And so they can contact me through the website, or they can contact me through Facebook, or they can message me through Facebook, and any of those would be fine. Our phone number is on the website, and people are more than welcome to give me a call as well.
Fantastic. Well, I, for one, am going to continue watching your progress. It's been really neat to see you guys doing your thing over the past year. And I keep track of you guys on Facebook and all the things that you're doing. It's really cool to see you guys blossoming in your practices. So
thanks, Chris. It's been fun, and I'm really glad that we reconnected, and it has been an interesting year.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the next one will be as interesting, but maybe not as stressful as this past year's been. So.
No, okay.
Okay. Well, have a great rest of the day.
All right, Chris. Thank you.
Okay.